Hey, Scott Gunn.
Hi Adam, how you doing?
You're not bad, you're right.
I feel confident enough because, as you know, enough happened for me. Even in the 10 weeks or whatever I had at it before all this happened, enough happened that I can see that things were going great. I mean, that's where part of my frustration comes, but that can't be helped, clearly. But if someone says to me, "How are you getting on?" Well, yeah, I frankly reckon I probably would have done 10 grand a month in March.
Do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had a couple of sales that have been put through. I had a couple of bungalows coming on that were gold. One of those bungalows immediately had somebody with a house to sell that would have loved it. And you could immediately see how quickly it was going to come together. One thing, it was going to be the domino was just about to start. Now, I'm exactly in the middle. I'm 50% peed off about the situation, and I'm 50% buoyed by it, if that makes sense. Because,
Yeah.
really looking at my cash flow forecast, although the cash flow is obviously decimated at the moment, the
Yeah.
numbers were going to be hit. Exactly what I thought was going to happen was going to happen. So, from my personal point of view, I'll back it, even if I've got to beg, borrow, steal. It doesn't matter, because from my point of view, you either think you're going to make 100 grand a year doing this, or you don't. If you actually think you're going to make 100 grand a year doing it, then it's worth a lump of money thrown at it.
It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, as they say.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. I mean, it's always amazed me how many people say at work, "Oh, I could do 5 times more sales if I had a laptop."
Yeah.
Well, go and buy yourself one then. Your boss probably should, but if they're not going to, and you can make another X amount, then just go and do it. Why not?
Yeah. So let's talk about the current market. Obviously, very difficult times. Just tell us about the last 2 or 3 weeks, halfway through March, things started to sort of unravel in terms of social distancing and pubs and bars, restaurants closing and stuff. How's that affected your market, your pipeline, your instruction levels, your sales? Give us a little overview, Scott.
I don't remember by date exactly when it happened. So even now, I don't remember if it was early March or late February. We'll start talking about this, I guess. In terms of sales, I managed to get a couple in early part of March.
Yeah.
One was legitimately from a buyer that didn't ever view it. Sent her sister, could see the lockdown coming, and was just like, "I want it, just get it sorted." So that was maybe a bit of luck. I don't know. I'm not a big believer in luck, but you maybe chalk that one down to a bit of luck. The other one, beautiful seafront flat that, again, somebody just wanted, and it was a holiday home, so they're looking at a 15-year investment. So again, just said, I don't really care what the market does short term. I won't be selling it anytime soon, so still want it. I had a couple of people almost saying, "Look, we want to list with you. The lockdown's coming soon. Can you get round as quickly as you can and get it on?" So I think it prompted a couple of listings to actually list with me a bit quicker. And we'll see, we'll see what comes of that over the next few weeks. But they're live. And then, then it ground to a halt. I'm not going to pretend it didn't. It ground to a halt. And, I'd love to know what all these agents are doing that are still smashing it out of the park on LinkedIn.
Business as usual.
Yeah. I've never been so busy. It's like, well, I'd want that explaining if I was their boss. You can explain why you're so successful now you're not here.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's having a positive attitude, and I'm a half glass half full, whatever. Yeah, a glass half full type of person, but yeah, I think there's got to be a bit of realism in there. But talking of glass half full, I'm very positive about the short term future, because I do think we're on a pause, and everyone's life has just been put on hold as far as I'm concerned. It's not like 2008 when the banks weren't lending money and people were losing their jobs and blah blah blah. Yet, people might still lose their jobs depending on how long this goes on for. But what's your sort of outlook? Are you half glass full or fully full or half empty? And what's your prediction for the next 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks?
I'm every single one of those, all of the above.
Right.
Depending on when you ask me, by day I can almost wake up in the morning and think, right, just crack on, things are fine, the sun's out at last, just enjoy working at a slightly slower pace, and just be positive. Things can still pick up, etc. Sometimes at night, 9, 10 o'clock, I'll read the wrong article or something like that, and it will just completely change my mindset temporarily. But I would say my considered view is that we've now had 3 years of Brexit slow down, give or take. Then everybody was ready to go, and now this. Presumably, if you put your deposit to one side, if you're a first-time buyer and you've got your deposit to one side, and this doesn't financially impact you too badly, presumably you're going to want to buy, and that drives the whole market. As long as people are buying at the bottom end of the market, then people will be pushed through the whole process. And I think, although this may not, I don't think this will necessarily change immediately. So I don't think it's going to be, right, the curtain's lifted, you can buy, sell and get moving again. I don't think people are going to come out of the woodwork immediately. I think some first-time buyers will. But I think in the medium term, there'll be a lot of people reassessing how they live. I think I live in a coastal town. I live in Margate. And right now we've got people in camper vans parking on our seafront because it's safe. And they feel they can isolate in a nice location and not be infected with viruses, right? Now, they're welcome to park on the seafront as far as I'm concerned. I can't stop them, and I can see why they'd want to do it. So quite happy with that. But to me, that tells me that people are going to be re-looking at how they live. Do they really want to be getting on the tubes every day? Do they really want to be... it's always been my theory that the country will flatten itself out in terms of house prices over years, and people might actually start eventually living where they want to live instead of where they have to live.
This might be the catalyst.
Well, it might be. I mean, I've met you once briefly, face to face, right? Doesn't feel like that. Doesn't feel like that to me. I mean, Rich Tomasini and Barry, I've never met.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like that now because we do these Zoom calls. Now, I mean, if I walk past you in Tesco's, I reckon I'd say hello and potentially just carry on my shop and then go, oh, hang on.
Yeah.
I don't actually see Adam face to face all the time. I should go back and say hello properly. And I think, because this is going to be a catalyst as well for a lot of this technology that we're on, for example, to improve. Right now, there's people really working on that. And there's people feedbacking what they liked and what they didn't like, what worked and what didn't. So I think there's going to be a lot of jobs that shift to not having to be on a daily basis. I really am convinced of it. And, maybe I'm short-sighted, but I wonder, what is going to be the lure of London in 15, 20 years' time?
It's interesting. And so we did have that conversation over the phone, I think, a couple of weeks back, or in our virtual work, didn't we, where you said exactly that about moving away from the city and out into the country or to the coast as a result of this, because people realise that actually I can work from home. I don't need to be in Islington so I can access central London within a quarter of an hour. I can be down in Margate or on the Norfolk coast, still working and communicating and via Zoom and stuff. I'm definitely, and I've literally just filmed a video of this. What date are we on? The 1st of April. It's not an April Fool's video. I've just done a video about my predictions, and I've said on there I've actually mentioned your point. So credit to Scott on that one. But I've also talked about the fact that people are living on top of each other at the moment. If I was still in my 3-bedroom terraced house, which I was 4 years ago, if this has come 4 years ago, I can tell you right now, the first thing I'll be doing when lockdown is over is putting my bloody house on the market. There's no way I could live with my family, 2 kids, a wife and a cat in a 3-bedroom, 2/3-bed terraced house. And there's a lot of our family friends are still living in that type of property because that's the housing stock we've got, and it's been difficult to move on. So, but you've got that, you've got people realizing they can't live with each other, so therefore divorcing. You've got baby boomers. Guess what people are going to be doing when during lockdown? They're going to be spending a lot more time in bed together, and so forth. Therefore, in 10 months' time, there'll be babies coming along, so people have to move because of that. So 9 months' time. Did I say 10 months? 9/10 months. This is going to last for a good month. This lockdown. So I think the market's going to come back quickly. That's my personal view.
I think so. I mean, yeah. I mean, the real answer is we'll see. But the flip side of that is, in a moment, I know I've just said I've gone over the last few weeks. I've gone through every single emotion possible. I think shock was a period of time I was in a genuine state of what the hell's going on? I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I do remember driving along and just thinking, Scott, your whole business plan is based on selling 3 a month. Like, there are businesses out there right now that are relying on selling 50 a month per branch.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to take some getting over that. And especially when they lose their best staff who have enough and, you know, don't appreciate the fact they're being furloughed on their basic and company cars being handed back in and all sorts of situations like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Like 3 a month to make 100 grand a year.
Which puts it into perspective, doesn't it? So just related to that, 2 questions. So, and people watching this might expect me to ask these questions, I guess, but this is not a sales pitch. We are literally doing a genuine phone call to sort of help each other, or me to help Scott. And again, you know, hopefully Scott just talking and repeating to himself that he only needs to do 3 sales a month is helpful to him, which is why we do these calls. But we always release them out on LinkedIn because we like to tell people what we do. So my 2 questions for you, I guess, is how do you think that what you've just said is going to impact then the way that we work in terms of estate agency businesses? Because obviously if some agents have got to rely on 50 houses to sell, to pay all their staff and pay their offices and pay everything, you know, is that a sensible way of, I'm loading the question a little bit, but is that a sensible way of operating a business? How do you think estate agency will evolve in the future as a result of all of this corona stuff?
I think the individuals, as I said to you, I've been reached out from 3 or 4 people recently without even having to message them saying, you know, what's it like at EXP, and that will take care of itself, because as soon as good people start to leave to set up in a different model, other people will follow. And I think it will potentially get to the point as well where not only have you got to sell 40 or 50, but you also can't attract the best members of staff to do that. I won't go back in. I wouldn't go back into, and I'm not even anti-high street at all. We've all got to work somewhere. It's not the high street that bothers me. It's the mentality of the people on the high street that bothers me. You know, you've got to work somewhere, right? Whether I'm in my cabin or you're in an office, if you work as hard as me, you're going to be as successful as me, and vice versa. Mm. But how do you attract staff back into your offices when the next wave of people leave, like they did in 2008, when there's models like we've got available?
Yeah, and in 2008 there wasn't these models available, really, were there? And you know, again 2008 to 10, you know, we're now 2020. You know, we were in a 1996 or whatever it was, you know, before my time, but people losing their jobs back in the early to mid 90s. You know, is it going to be 2030 and all those people that, you know, start in a estate agency today in a traditional model, or go back into it having been furloughed or made redundant? Are they just going to find themselves out of another job in 10 years' time? I'm not sure they will, because I think the models like ours now do exist to give people that freedom to go out and, you know, make their own way in life and make their own decisions and not be a victim of outside forces and or a victim of their boss's decisions. Because if they are the boss, then they're a victim of their own decisions. Yeah. And obviously that's where we're trying to help. So the second question I had was, as I thought you might answer in that way, obviously. But the second question I had was, I suppose anyone watching this, you know, agents are sitting at home. They are worried about their jobs. They are on 80% of their basic, we think. Some companies might be different. They might pay the commission out as well. But from what I understand, it's going to be 80% of your basic. And that's not to try to fear people. That's the reality of the situation. I spoke to a chap earlier who said, I'm going to wait for 3 or 4 months. So I'm getting loads of calls. I'm getting loads and loads of calls. You've had 3 or 4 literally in the last week or two. You've only been with EXP for 2 months, 2.5 months. And he said to me, I'm going to wait for 3 or 4 months until I know the market's going to come back. Again, what my advice might be different to yours. And this is why, again, we have these calls. What would you be saying to people who are saying, I'm going to wait for 3 or 4 months? Would you be saying, yeah, good idea? Or would you be saying, no, do it now? Or would you be saying, wait till we're out of lockdown? What would you be saying to those people that are thinking of it?
I'll keep repeating myself with this expression that timing is key. I don't mean to do it, but it just is, isn't it? I mean, I think if somebody was going to open up tomorrow morning, it's maybe a bit too much of a punt, because, yeah, you can get. I mean, my first month, probably my first 6 weeks, was getting quite a lot of stuff ready. You know, choosing my letterhead, business cards, getting the website right. You know, you've got no one to call, so you've got to come up with a business plan. So 4 or 5 weeks can easily be put aside to that. So if you're sitting at home twiddling your thumbs now, you could be using that time quite productively, coming up with a business plan based on the market, even returning at an average level. As we said with EXP, there's still money to be made.
Yeah.
But it really, if you either want to start a business because you're going to make money over 5-10 years, or you don't. But don't start it based on how you think you're going to go over a couple of months. I think that would be the wrong decision. As I said to you earlier, if you think you can sell 3 houses a month consistently on average over the next 10 years, then you'll earn 100 grand a year doing that.
£1,000,000.
Yeah, and there might be years when you sell 10% more and years when you sell 10% less. But for me, I would only look at it over a 5-10 year period anyway, really.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. For me, you know, this next, I'm starting to push the button on a few videos now on LinkedIn. I think, you know, we had a week last week where everyone had a holiday. let's be honest. I didn't, but most people I spoke to were sitting in their garden because the weather was okay, and, you know, going for walks with their family, even though we were in lockdown. But, you know, stuff like that. This week, I think, is probably a week of frustration, disbelief that it's still happening, a lack of acceptance of it. And I think next week is when there'll be an acceptance of it. This might go on for a bit longer than 3
Well, I've heard
weeks.
from more people socially today saying, "Oh, how you doing?" as well, like friends that are just phoning up saying, "Oh, I thought I'd ring." And none of those were phoning last week. Everyone was just in this. So I think that's going to ease up. So
Yeah,
hopefully by next week as well.
Yeah, so I think next week, so that's week commencing, what is it, the 7th of April or something like that, is the week, 6th of April I think it might be, is the week where you've got to start planning. You've got to start planning for coming out of this. You know, what content for estate agents, what content you're going to put out, what direct mail are you going to be doing, when are you going to be doing the direct mail, you know, what advice are you going to be giving clients, you know, how are you going to help buyers find a property and search for property, just an entire, you know, booklet, your own sort of plan, business plan, like you say, of what it looks like when you get out. And it might not be ready to go, but you've got to be a bit lucky. You've got to predict the right timing when to start pushing content out there and letters, but I think you've got to start planning it.
I think for me, my biggest thing right now would be if I was sitting at home and I was sitting there stressing about what decisions somebody else could make for me, that would drive me insane. You know, the idea of sitting there waiting if a director's going to pay me or if they're going to let me go, or if I just can't handle that, which is why I'm self-employed. You know, I'm self-employed because it's now on me. I can come up with a business plan that I can come out and act on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sitting there waiting for someone else to make the phone call to me to say, you've got a job, you haven't got a job, or you've got a job on this salary now, or these are your new targets, this is your new OTE. Just couldn't do it.
And that probably sums up the entire reason at this moment in time. We're not, you know, we don't want to revel in other people's misery or sadness or redundancy or anything like that. But exactly what Scott's just said, it's all about, you are your own boss. You know, I'm not there to kick and, you know, set targets, and I'm there to help people achieve what they want to achieve. And by doing whatever it takes, which is a video call with Scott or a phone call with Mark Bentley or whatever it might be, you know, nothing. Some people just don't want to hear from me at all, which is fine. Whatever it might be, you know, that's really what we're here for. And the rest of the network as well, I think it's fair to say, and it's Scott, you know, we're all there for each other, we're all looking out for each other, and, you know, we've got 50 plus agents all have each other's backs, which is nice. So yeah, look, thank you, Scott, for your time.
My pleasure.
As always, enjoyed chatting with you, hearing your predictions. Let's hope they're right-ish.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, cheers, Adam.
Scott, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.